Alabama officially has its first starting freshman for the 2025 season. Let's talk about it. What is up, everybody? Clint Lamb with A to Z Sports and Cover Crimson. Okay, so maybe Alabama hadn't officially named its first freshman starter for the 2025 season, but following Alabama's practice on Wednesday, defensive coordinator Kane Wommack did address the media, and he did describe five-star freshman Dijon Lee as a starter, at least in his eyes, for this defense. But before we get into the exact quote, what he said about Dijon Lee, we also need a little bit of context. And he was talking about Damani Jackson, who was a returning starter for Alabama last year at corner. He's been dealing with injuries, whether it be back in the spring, summer, and even into fall camp. There was something going on at the end of last season, an undisclosed injury, and he's been battling his way back ever since. And so through that process, Dijon Lee has been given a lot of reps or opportunities, including with the first team defense, and that has really presented him with the opportunity to earn a significant role once the season opener rolls around against Florida State in just over 9 days. So here's what Kane Wommack said. He said, it's allowed Dijon in the spring, summer, and fall camp to get tons of reps, and reps with the ones. To me, with two very experienced corners that we have on this roster, we feel like Dijon can go right in. You know what I mean? So credit to him, the way that he's playing right now, I see him as a starter in our defense. Really impressive. It's 2 years in a row now, right? We've had a young freshman that Mo Linguist has done a tremendous job of developing that guy into being a starter-level player for us. And so excited for Dijon and what he does for our defense. And Wommack actually brings up an excellent point when it comes to Dijon Lee. This is now the second consecutive season that Alabama has had a freshman, a five-star freshman, come in and earn what would be considered a starting job. Obviously, Zabian Brown was a full-time starter from the beginning of last year to the end of last year. And I don't necessarily think that Dijon Lee is going to be to that degree where he's the first cornerback on the field or one of the first cornerbacks on the field for the first snap. But I also think this is a much more challenging, much more competitive secondary than it was a year ago. So the fact that a true freshman like Dijon Lee is even in this conversation is pretty remarkable. But for anybody who's been paying attention this offseason, it's also not overly surprising. I mean, this is a 6'4", 202-pound cornerback who plays physical. He battles at the catch point, the length, the athleticism, the movement, the ball skills, everything you look for at the position as far as the athleticism. He's got it, but he's also 6'4" and weighs 202 pounds, which is a unicorn of a defender. But based off of people that we've talked to, a lot of his success has been based on his work ethic and his approach this offseason. He's gone about his business the right way. He's earned the trust of not only the coaching staff, but his teammates. And Alabama really feels like when he's on the field, there's not going to be much, if any, of a drop-off between his play and a guy like Damani Jackson or a guy like Zabian Brown. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be any freshman mistakes and he's going to be playing like a veteran from pretty much day one. I'm sure there will be some hiccups along the way, but as far as the consistent production or competitiveness that he brings to the table, they see that in a very similar fashion to the other cornerbacks they got on the roster. And I just think that speaks volumes as far as the depth that Alabama has and the talent that Alabama has in its secondary. Doesn't matter if you're talking about cornerback, you're talking about safety with a guy like Ivan Taylor being in the mix, you're talking about Husky. It's incredible exactly how much talent and depth that they've accumulated in such a short period of time. We've talked about it before in other videos, but I definitely want to give Dijon Lee his credit because he has stepped up and he hadn't taken a starting job from Damani Jackson or Zabian Brown necessarily, but I do think he's going to take snaps. And we got to remember that Damani Jackson is a projected first-round draft pick or at the very least a day 2 draft pick, while Zabian Brown has first-round upside for the future. So Dijon Lee has been super impressive. Give Mo Linguist a lot of credit for the development side of things and give Kane Wommack a lot of credit for how he's going to be able to utilize this depth and talent in Alabama secondary.